This is Jay Carpenter, moderator of the Phoneword Forum. It is Wednesday, June the 27th, 2012 at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And today's topic is toll-free broadband, opportunity or obsolescence. And so far we have Tom Ogle on the line. Martin Geddes just retweeted the announcement for this, so maybe we'll get a little new input.
Will he be joining us then?
I don't know. It's definitely a topic of interest for him. So I still have not posted the recording from his session, nor transcribed it. So.
Oh, is his the one that was so muddled?
Yeah, it was a bad connection. But in retrospect, it was, in my view, probably the most important one we've had, possibly ever.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So anything you want to cover today, Tom?
Well, I guess just these two articles. I mean, it's getting more and more apparent that, I mean, things are definitely shifting, and I don't know that they're necessarily shifting in our direction. Yeah, I mean, I wish we'd get 50 people on the phone and see what everybody thinks.
Yeah, I expected Paul to join us, Paul Faust, but and generally he's late to the conference calls, but he was talking about getting a group together to discuss the topic, but I guess this is it. So you had a chance to read the articles, and what was your take?
Well, again, I think it's a shift away from voice, at least according to the CEO, and where was the other person? He was a VP of, I'm not sure now where that was. VP of wireless or something, just talking about data plans and the ability for subscribers to be able to share between different devices. Other things in the one article, talking about voice just becoming a part of the data package, not necessarily a voice pricing component as a separate component, and I don't really know what that means to us. I mean, depending on how they, if they keep it simply tied to a phone number, then maybe we still have an addressing scheme that works, or at least that maintains some relevance for us. If they start shifting away from that, I don't know what that means. And I mean, for a CEO of such a large company to be saying in 12 months this is going to be available, and data-only plans coming in the next 24 months. I mean, I don't know that I know what that means for voice.
Mm-hmm. Could you elaborate a little bit more on what you mean by the data being tied to a telephone number? Can you give an example?
Well, I mean, just things going back, a couple of years when you and I started talking about some of this sort of stuff. If we could deliver other pieces of information over what we currently have, obviously a phone number, that could look a certain way. If all of a sudden we've got large phone companies or data providers, maybe not voice providers, leading the public into into a different realm. Again, I don't know what that means for toll-free phone numbers. And I think that's potentially alarming?
Mm-hmm. Well, for toll-free telephone numbers, they do not work on the data network.
Right.
Geographic telephone numbers do work on the data network. And the way you can tell is by sending a text to a geographic number, you can text, but to a toll-free number, you cannot. And as long as that's the case, people in the toll-free telephone number industry can be assured that a toll-free telephone number will not work outside of the PSTN, the public switch telephone network.
Mm-hmm.
So the interesting thing about the two articles, in my view, was the time frame. This is the first time that I've seen someone put a time frame on it whereby there's a 12-month period for toll-free data and a 24-month time frame for data-only plans. So, which, in my view, is aligned, the 24-month period is aligned with what I would expect for a sunsetting of the public switch telephone network. So,
why are you saying that? Because they specifically address voice in that article?
Well, I think the important thing to keep in mind is voice is, in a data realm that he's talking about on the 24-month data plan, and he specifically says that voice is no different than anything else that's traversing across the network. So I think for people to try to think that voice is somehow different than emails or video or numbers or anything else, that's really the pitfall.
But if that's the case, then why can't that work in reverse, where we can send a video over a telephone number, i.e. a toll-free number?
Well, we could if we had a registry in place. We could definitely do that. And, we were taking toll-free telephone numbers and creating a fully qualified domain name that matches that toll-free telephone number, then we could do everything. And this toll-free broadband announcement would actually be something for everybody to cheer about, in my view. Because, for a long time I've asserted that toll-free telephone numbers, if they could fully operate on the Internet, would be superior to Internet domains because people could be assured that their mobile connection would be free of charge, and, I assert there's a possibility of having a preferred connection. And
do you think with the announcement of AT&T's CEO using the phrase toll-free, that it will bring traditional legacy toll-free back into the mindset of people, and is there something we can do with that system that's already there? Or do you think it's just going to be overlooked?
I think there are incentives for the legacy toll-free telephone number system to just fade away. And there are incentives for the AT&Ts and the large carriers, let's put it that way, to introduce a new signal or flag, if you will, that a connection is toll-free data. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not seeing anything that indicates to me that there's any kind of initiative or anything else to take the legacy toll-free telephone numbers and bring them up to date so that they fully operate on the internet. Now, there is some sort of indication that the SMS 800 Inc. has some sort of initiative in the works with what I understand, and this is just hearsay, is a 2-year time horizon, but it's not explicit.
This with the new board or through the new president, or?
I don't fully know.
Okay.
It was just mentioned on a call that was in the works, or something's in the planning.
Well, to me, that doesn't look like it's going to happen fast enough.
Well, you know, a 2-year time horizon, in my view, is not.
I mean,
that's not going to work.
2 years.
Exactly. I mean, there's not. If AT&T introduces toll-free broadband plans in 12 months, they're going to have some sort of way to signal to the public that this connection is toll-free broadband.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing in this article that indicates that they're going to use legacy toll-free telephone numbers. And, you know, there's a whole host of fundamental issues that have been vexing for a long time as to why they, even if they wanted to, they, you know, unless they were really willing to do a radical mindset and transformation of the administration of toll-free telephone numbers, they just couldn't do it. So, because the subscriber is not, there's no definitive subscriber for toll-free telephone numbers. There's a RESPORG, but the RESPORG is the only definitive thing you can say that's associated with a toll-free telephone number, other than maybe a set of carriers. Everything else, there's no definitive subscriber for toll-free telephone numbers.
I mean, going back to your registry comment, I mean, that's been part of the PhoneWord forum conversation for a couple of years or more. So do you still believe that it needs to originate out of something like the PhoneWord forum, or does that registry need to originate from the SMS toll-free board? Or, I mean, has your mindset shifted there at all?
I think it could happen either way. I think that, and arguably it could happen both ways. So there could be an independent registry that's created, and there could be a registry that's created that's fostered by the SMS 800 Inc. I'm just saying that I'm not seeing or hearing about any initiative that's underway that would, that would indicate that the SMS 800 Inc. is planning to create a new registry that is separate and independent from the existing SMS 800 database. So I mean, there's just a wrath of issues that if they were going to roll something like that out, I'm pretty sure we would be hearing about it. Within a 12 month.
You haven't, other than these two articles or maybe spin-off articles, you haven't heard anything about how they plan to address, how they plan to identify to the users that the data is a toll-free connection?
Nope.
Okay.
No, there's no indication in here that they're going to have, let's say Netflix.com/toll-free or tollfree.netflix.com, or, is it going to be 1-800-NETFLIX? There's no indication in here. In, private conversations, the idea of a distinctive internet domain was the one that was most favored, and certainly that's the path with least resistance in terms of regulation and modifying the SMS 800 database and all that stuff.
But I mean, having stated that, then it really doesn't matter what AT&T thinks or what Verizon thinks or what anybody thinks, because they really don't have control over the internet anyway.
Well, I mean, it matters, but there could be a registry that was placed into operation that could be independent of AT&T and Verizon and the rest of the carriers and so forth. And just like e164.org is up and operating, there's plenty of toll-free numbers that are registered in there, and that's has nothing to do with any given carrier in terms of operation.
Right.
So it can be done. It has been done. It's just the the time's running out. So, in my view, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, the optimistic view is that a registry could be set up and operated to take advantage of this rollout of toll-free broadband. So whatever... Hello?
Warren Miller.
Hey, Warren. How are you?
Hi, pretty good. I'm sorry I'm late.
It's okay. No problem. Welcome. It's Tom Ogle, myself, and you, and we're talking about these articles and the possibilities surrounding toll-free broadband. So, I was just, Warren, are you familiar with e164.org?
With which now?
e164.org.
No, I'm not. What's that?
e164.org is a registry that's, up until recently, was operated by some folks out of Australia, and it allowed people to go in and register their geographic telephone numbers as well as their toll-free telephone numbers, and provision SIP, provision email, text messaging, websites, anything internet protocol related to the telephone number. And so, we're talking about the timing on the AT&T announcement that's saying, in the next 12 months they're expecting to roll out a toll-free broadband service. And the question that Tom and I were talking about is, well, great, so what's the address going to be? Is it going to be...
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. And in other words, are you talking about a toll-free version of texting to just have the number go to text, or what are you going to access when you get this toll free?
Well, what is not stated in the article is what's the address going to be.
Right.
And there's no indication in the article that it's going to be a legacy toll-free telephone number. And what I've, in some private conversation, what was, talked about was you just add either a prefix or a suffix to an internet domain, like tollfree.netflix.com or netflix.com/toll-free,
right?
And voila, you've got toll-free addressing, but has nothing to do with traditional 1-800 numbers or 1-888 or anything like that.
Is this the reason? Is the reason for this is because they're charging more for data plans, and people are resisting, and they want to foist it off onto commercial customers, or what?
Well, that's a huge concern for the carriers, and I would assert that people are becoming more and more sensitive to their data plan usage.
Yeah.
They don't want to trigger another $10 because they're watching some YouTube video or whatever.
Right.
So, there's a growing awareness in the public's mind about their broadband data usage. But in my view, the advantage for the carriers is the toll-free broadband opens up a new way for them to govern the usage of toll-free data. Because if they're charging Netflix or Amazon or Hulu or whatever, and they've got a better pricing model, they've got a better way to govern the usage of that toll-free data if they're putting the payment burden on the content provider.
Oh yeah, and unlike toll-free in the '60s, the caller will not be slow to want to pass the cost off to somebody else. We know that. They'll be happy to unload it. Right.
But the point being that's even more acute with data versus voice traffic is that there needs to be a pricing mechanism to regulate the consumption of data. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that need is even greater with wireless mobile broadband connectivity, because right now it's out of control. With the consumer paying for the data consumption, there's no up until this point, pretty much having unlimited data plans, there was absolutely no pricing mechanism to give people pause. Hey, do I want to watch this video in downtown Manhattan or not? And now that pricing mechanism is surfacing on the consumer side, but the way to really control via price broadband usage is push it over to the content provider.
And the question then will be though is I'm just imagining, I'm stereotyping, but I'm imagining for a minute the value of the person that wants unlimited streaming, and I don't imagine that person being you or I or somebody else who has a job, but
Well, let me give you an example. Let's say that I'm in the market for a new Lexus. And Lexus shows an advertisement where I can do a video conference with my local dealer or the factory, and I can actually be doing a video conference with a representative from Lexus. They can be showing me different models. They can do a walk around a car, very much like a webinar.
Oh yeah, no, I see that. In fact, you see now they have these shorts that they put on TV as a movie to attract somebody to that product. That would be a good use for it, where they have the click on and see how it turns out, and now that people are more sensitive to paying, I can see why that would be making it free is much more because a movie is going to suck up a lot of bits. So I can see that.
Yeah, but it's actually, Warren, even more appealing to me is, let's say I'm in the top 1%, and I'm a customer for a Lexus or a Porsche or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's not only that, maybe I'm annoyed because I click over to the next gig on my mobile broadband plan, and it's going to cost me an extra $10. That's annoying, and even people in the high income, high wealthy individuals get annoyed about that. But actually the more appealing proposition is that Lexus can give me a preferred connection since they're paying for the data. Okay. So if I can get it for free and I can get a preferred connection and I'm in a congested metropolitan area like Chicago or New York or San Francisco, of course I'm going to dial I'm going to dial lexususa.com/toll free or toll free.
So unlike toll free, where everything is a quality signal 5, because it has to be from the old days, mm-hmm. You're saying it could be brand X cell phone dropping everything versus a really good connection. I see, and they could put it on that net based upon their URL. They could put it on the network that provides that.
Right.
What's the tie-in to the dinosaurs, the people with the 800 numbers?
Well, the tie-in is this. I'm saying that there's still an opportunity to create a registry that can connect people to a toll-free broadband connection and perhaps even a preferred connection using our existing legacy 800 numbers.
Yeah,
or toll-free.
Just put a dot, whatever, behind it.
Well, no, it's not even a dot. It's actually, if you look at e164.org,
I will.
You'll see that there's already an independent registry that's out there that can accommodate toll-free telephone number registrations. So I could take 1-800 phone word, and the digits 1-800-746-6396. I can actually register that into a registry, create a fully qualified domain name, and then if my client that I'm dialing from is set to look at that registry, all of a sudden I'm doing a total IP to IP connection, or I can be, even though I dialed in 1-800-746-6396.
Yeah, I'm out in my backyard, so I'm not in front of my computer. But to get to e164.org, how do I find that? I just click it in Google. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit ignorant in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And so the point being that to the legacy dinosaur industry of toll-free telephone numbers is, hey, there's still an opportunity to create a registry that can be run, I'll call it over-the-top addressing, and, we could actually do this. We could actually intervene now rather than waiting for AT&T, in 6 months, or who knows, it could be any time now. They might start advertising, the new toll-free broadband address is take your internet domain and put a /toll-free, and voila, Lexus will pick up your data.
Well, wouldn't they want us with our 800 numbers to join this party and pay for it?
I don't think so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, for example, let's say I have a 800 travel service, and I also have the domain 800travelcall.com. So what I'm thinking of is those people that call 800. I don't want to convert to a way to get on my website for those people that are used to the 800 number. They wouldn't want that. They wouldn't want my business. Why would they? How are they intending to capitalize on cutting me out?
Well, there's two big considerations. Number one is the registration process to take your 1-800-TRAVEL number and say that it's Warren Miller's versus Ring Central or If by Phone or some other company.
Yeah.
Which is hard to sort out. That's been one of the vexing problems with setting this up in the past. Unless they're willing to tackle that, unless the carriers are willing to tackle that, I don't think they're going to do it.
Oh, you're saying they're going to come up with their own nomenclature plan that I would have to create whole new brand awareness around.
Exactly. And which would have nothing to do with 1-800-TRAVEL, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I see.
You see?
Yeah,
and
another tag I'd have to put on top of everything besides everything else.
Right. And the other thing is, as soon as you take 1-800-TRAVEL, what is it again? Travel what?
Travel call, yeah.
Okay. 1-800. As soon as you register 1-800-TRAVEL call into something like e164.org, and you start making IP to IP connections, that 2 or 3 cents per minute goes away in terms of the carrier revenue stream.
Oh, yeah, I see. They don't want that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yes, it's declining. Call minutes and call volumes all declining, but something's better than zero. You see what I'm saying?
Was this a subject brought up at the last meeting of the group
in San Diego?
San Diego, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I brought it up then, and I've been bringing it up on these calls, but it doesn't seem to resonate, or at least it hasn't until now we've got a time horizon of 12 months on this, and sure enough, this toll-free broadband is real.
So your point is that get ahead of the curve and come up with a naming plan that doesn't cause it so difficult to retain our identity. Is that it?
Yeah, it's more than naming. It's really functionality. It's really being able to roll out with your 1-800-TRAVEL call telephone number, being able to include in your advertisements, hey, download this app or go to this website and dial 1-800-TRAVEL call from this website, and you're not going to incur any data charges, and we can give you a preferred connection. Now,
you're saying instead of just going to my website, and if they have Skype, clicking on it, they could go through the website, and it would be part of their data plan to click to the voice.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and behind that 800 number might be some other. In other words, if I buy this from them and I haven't tied it to my 800 number, I'm going to have to do a presto changeover behind the screen, so that when I click on 800 whatever, it comes into my website. It comes to my operator.
Yeah.
It's turn it into a SIP connection or something.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's all IP. Never even touches the PSTN. That's what, in my view, the toll-free telephone number industry needs to do right now. And
I
you
see that off the website.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, people with good toll-free telephone numbers like 1-800-TRAVEL call, now all of a sudden you can start to say, hey, look, we've got a new way for you to connect. And
go to the web and connect for free.
Go to the web and connect for free, or download this app one time, and now when you dial the 1-800 call a travel call, you know, you're going to get a preferred connection, and we're going to pick up your broadband.
Yeah,
now,
well, I'm pretty behind the curve on this, but so clicking to a website doesn't use much, and whereas a SIP phone call would use more data. In other words, is that plus the fact that it's now all one thing and seamless. I can see that, yeah. But you were talking about avoiding the data charges. There's very little data charge, I guess, on clicking to a website as long as you don't download a video from that website.
Well, but that's what I'm saying is that the video component of our sessions, if you will, what used to be called a call, we'll call them now sessions, the video component's going to be growing. You know, there's going to be more video.
You're right.
There's going to more video, more data, more video conferencing. You know, I want to see the car. I want to do a walk around. I want.
Yeah, that's what Paytech now Windstream calls them sessions. That for my voice over IP. Right,
right. So, you know, the days of just a voice-only call. I mean, we'll always have voice-only calls. You know, there's no doubt about that. And the bandwidth on a voice-only call is minimal. But when you start to add voice and rich media, now all of a sudden you've got a data hog. And you know, what I think we still have time to do is to create a registry and, as you said, be ahead of the curve so that when and if, you know, the carriers announce these toll-free data plans and they've got some sort of other addressing scheme, we can say, well, we've got a way for you to dial a toll-free telephone number and get the same thing.
Okay, well, I'll go to e164.org and look at it. Anything in particular? Do you have anything in mind as to the prototype of what this registry would look like?
Well, the e164.org is a type of, I mean, you could use that as a model. In my view, that registry is not commercial grade at this point. And, you know, there are other alternatives to set up a like registry that's actually superior.
And we would have to form a more closely knit association than we have right now to fund this and to maintain it, I presume.
Correct. Yeah. And, you know, I think there are some very attractive funding mechanisms for it, but, you know, it's time to raise awareness in the industry that there is an immediate opportunity because, you know, I assert that under the model that we've just been talking about, I would rather dial 1-800-NETFLIX if I knew that Netflix is going to pick up the broadband and I could get a preferred connection.
As opposed to going online, you mean?
Yeah, and instead of going to Netflix.com.
Yeah.
But what we don't want, you know, Netflix in conjunction with AT&T or Verizon or the other carriers to introduce in the marketplace, you know, put in Netflix.com/toll-free.
Yeah, and cut out if somebody does have Netflix.com, you mean?
Yeah, and then, you know, then we're going to be fighting a much steeper, you know, uphill battle if we're trying to say, you know, after the fact, after a new toll-free addressing scheme has been introduced, if we then have to, you know, build and then try to roll out, well, wait, you know, you can get the same advantages by, you know, downloading this app or dialing, you know, 1-800-CALL or travel call through a particular website.
Well, it would seem that we would have to do something that would be advantageous for AT&T to want to go along with it. We'd have to sell them on the idea that this was good for them, don't you think?
Well, I think that's possible, and certainly we would want to do something that's attractive to the carriers, attractive to the legacy regulatory regimes and so forth, and I think that's possible. But to wait for them to act, I think is a fatal mistake.
Yeah. Are there any barriers to that in the next 12 months from a URL point of view? I mean, do we have to have a new, top-level domain?
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm. No, it's...
Well, I mean, when you talk about the regulatory regimes, et cetera, I mean, there's no barrier. That's the question.
In my view, there is no barrier. Now, effectuating the toll-free data and the preferred connection, that's going to take, some work, some sort of, that's not readily available today. So if I set up a registry today, I would have a difficult time, saying this toll-free number is now, toll-free data. It's data charge-free to you. However, I think that's all possible and all coming together. And, the time to start this is now, not later. And even if AT&T rolls out this plan as scheduled within the next 12 months, it's my view that we can lay on top of whatever they roll out a connection so that when people dial 1-800-PHONE-WORD or 1-800-HOLLYWOOD or 1-800, whatever, that we can do the connection behind the scenes to whatever their toll-free data address is.
Yeah, we would just ship it to their. We'd have to get a preferred connection, and we'd have to send our calls to that. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if let's say, for example, in your Netflix example, your idea is with the right scheme, we could retain the 800 Netflix identity, and it could be used to access either voice or data from a smartphone. Is that the idea?
Correct. Okay. And the other advantage of us taking this on is that we can maintain the trust and the good brand that 1-800 numbers currently have in the marketplace.
Oh yeah.
That's our biggest asset in my view, is that people know and trust toll-free telephone numbers. And by us running our own registry, we can assure that if people dial, 1-800-PHONE-WORD or 1-800-TRAVEL-CALL or whatever, that they're not going to get charged for the data connectivity. When, other addressing schemes will have some education associated with them, where you got to tell people that, hey, this is a toll-free connection, toll-free data connection. And in my view and others, there's an opportunity for fraud around that, where somebody could put up some sort of / toll-free associated with their domain name, but not really be picking up the data charges.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Having had reasonable contact with these bell-shaped heads over the last 26 years, I have to think one of their motives might be to wrest control of the 800 market away from people like us, which they've basically, acceded over the last 20 years, and to get control over a naming plan that, if I were to just wear one of their hats for the moment, I would say impedes competition or whatever with some of the people in the market who sit on numbers and this and that and the other thing. I would think they might think that this is an opportunity to get around us and with this new naming convention. I don't know whether does that occur to you or not?
Absolutely. And so, I'm not saying I've got hard evidence for anything like that, and I'm not accusing them of taking that tactic. But
I would presume that unless proven otherwise.
Yeah. Well, I just think there are multiple incentives for a new toll-free addressing scheme to be introduced, and then let the legacy toll-free telephone number addressing just sort of die a death like fax machines and pagers.
Yeah. Well, that took them a long time to die, the faxes.
Well, yeah, but I mean, wouldn't it be cool if we had the ability to take it on ourselves and introduce, a contemporary toll-free telephone number that's, arguably an address of choice versus an internet domain. And the example again is 1-800-NETFLIX. If people prefer to connect to Netflix via 1-800-NETFLIX instead of Netflix.com, then all of a sudden we've got a whole new future.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I do. And I'll go to this e164.org. What's do you have another meeting scheduled for this or anything like that?
Well, we're going to continue the phone word forums on the last Wednesday of every month at 4 p.m. Eastern.
Okay.
And we've had Martin Geddes, who's out of the United Kingdom, speak a couple months ago, and this is an area that he's done a lot of work in, and he has a keen interest in toll-free broadband. I'm not saying that he's on board for the, taking the legacy toll-free telephone numbers and moving them into the contemporary. I don't think he's opposed to that, but his interest is really in the power of toll-free broadband. Yeah. And he has some very innovative and I think thought-provoking and in my view, right on target views as to how this can be implemented. And so the bottom line, Warren, is that the toll-free broadband issue, in my view, is the biggest issue we've faced as an industry. And I intend that for the foreseeable future, the phone word forums are going to be dedicated to toll-free broadband and what's possible. So
has Alicia, with her ear to the ground, some of her old AT&T mates, come up with any insight on this?
Aaliyah's, she's, I think her awareness is increasing in this area. So I don't know. I haven't spoken.
This may be a bridge too far for her. Well, beyond the interest, I'm thinking at one point she was interested in local number portability, and I was having a lot of trouble with that in a lot of jurisdictions around the country, and I called on her, and she finally decided that was not an area she wanted to be in anymore because it's too messy with all the different jurisdictions. But and this may not be something she wants to get involved for the future either. I just thought, she has a lot of AT&T connections, or at least is on some of those committees.
Yeah, well, she's very active in the SMS 800 Inc.
Right.
Next generation governance, and she did. I haven't looked at her website recently, but a couple weeks ago she did indicate on her website at the ATL.com website that, or whatever it is, that she's resurrected the idea of local number portability.
Oh, she did. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you might want to take a look at that, but I did notice
I will look at that, yeah, because we're still in that with Crime Stoppers around the country and weather lines around the country and sports lines around the country. So I'll look at that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Jay, before we break off, you made a comment to Warren a few minutes ago about e164.org not being a commercial enterprise. Can you expand a little bit on that comment?
Well, no, my experience so far has been that E164.org, at least up until recently, and it's my understanding they're going through a management change, they have not been their service has not been to a commercial grade in my view. This is Jay Carpenter's view.
Right.
And I recently registered a toll-free telephone number in their registry, just before I was ready to do a big demo, and I wake up in the morning, the day of the demo, and find out that my registration had been revoked because, for some reason. That plus some other things, and again, maybe that's all going to be changed with this new management regime, which I don't know much about. But it was something that was run by some folks out of Australia for a number of years, and just the customer the ability to get registrations, to interface, in my view, was not up to a commercial standard. It was more like a community enterprise, let's put it that way.
Best efforts kind of thing.
Best efforts, yeah. So.
And obviously no customer service being halfway around the world. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not aware of any customer service line that you could call and, hey man, reestablish my registration.
Hey mate.
Yeah, hey mate.
Exactly.
Give me what Sheila's on the other end of this line, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, that's all just my view. So, and I qualify it as such.
Well, it's valuable though.
Are you still pursuing the other registry from the Czech Republic that you were a year ago or so?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So, but there's actually some other things that are available now that I wasn't aware of that are even more exciting. So I'm Warren. Just so you know, and Tom knows, I've been pursuing this avenue for 2 years now. And
I know when we met up in Chicago, you were.
Yeah.
Talking about e-domains anyway, about e-numbers.
Right. And I've done what I can to bootstrap this and patch it together as best I can. And I'm pleased with the progress, but it's gotten to the point where I need some people to get on the bandwagon.
Yeah, I understand.
And in terms of interest, talent, technical expertise, and I'm actually excited because I think there's a way for this thing to self-fund. And and by the way, I think it offers an avenue for us to solve some of the vexing problems that have faced us, such as geographic routing. So I haven't even talked about that, but I'm pretty excited about this being an alternative to routing calls on toll-free telephone numbers.
As opposed to switch-based, you mean?
Yeah, instead of looking at the NPA, the area code, which really day in, day out means less and less.
Yeah, yeah. You're talking looking at the GPS system in the phone?
It's not even GPS. It's really a registration component.
Oh, okay. That tells you where the phone is, you mean?
Yeah, yeah. And okay. So it's much akin to a license plate on a car where, I can be driving my Arizona vehicle in Southern California and, it's clear to everybody that, hey, the home domicile is in Arizona, but I happen to be in, Orange County right now.
Is this CALIA linked to that whole security thing that the government's trying to get the phone companies to do?
Well, that's a whole other realm in terms of the CALIA and all that stuff. Okay. And I won't go into that, but there is a growing interest among the committees that are underway to transition from the public switch telephone network to an all IP network, there is a growing interest in enum. But I think the folks that are in those committees are still, for the most part, trying to get their arms around enum, and they're coming up against the vexing issues that have been problematic for implementing end-user opt-in enum for a decade now. So anyway, but
okay.
all in all, I'm optimistic, Warren, and I think if we can, build some momentum, which I'm, again, optimistic we can, we still have a window to introduce something and be proactive instead of reactive.
Yeah. Well, I thank you. And, Tom, I want to thank you for allowing Jay to spend so much time getting me up to speed at your expense. I appreciate it.
Well, most certainly it's not at my expense. There's always something to learn for me as well.
All right, gentlemen. Well, I'm going to go ahead and hang up since we're at the top of the hour.
Okay.
Warren, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
We'll be in touch.
Okay.
And it was a good conversation.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Okay,
right.
bye.
Bye.